Hello class, we did our project on the Coconut Grove fire. The Coconut Grove opened its doors on October 27, 1927. The club/restaurant was located at 17 Piedmont Street, Boston, Massachusetts. The fire occurred on the night of November 28, 1942. The fire is still to this day the deadliest nightclub fire in the U.S. history, where 492 people lost their lives. The club owner brought in a Boston interior designer to redesign the interior to make the club more family-oriented. The interior designer brought a tropical theme with artificial palm trees, blue satin ceilings, dance floor, bandstand, and rolling platform stage. The character bar and the melody lounge were introduced at the time. The club also had an estimated 100 tables, 400 chairs, and 30 fixed stools. As you can see in this picture are some of the interior decorations referenced from the previous slide. The original building was built in 1916 of reinforced concrete. 3 adjoining buildings were incorporated into the final building that made up the nightclub. The building covered more than half a block. The building was roughly 10,250 square feet. The application on file in the licensing board office showed entrances and exits of the nightclub were at 17 Piedmont Street, Broadway, and Shawmut Street. Further discussion of the building design of the Coconut Grove includes a revolving door at Piedmont Street entrance. There are 5 doors to the outside on the ground floor. For those in the Melody Lounge, which is located in the basement, had no exits from there except for the staircase they entered from and a small window. The staircase was about 4 feet wide and led to the foyer on the first floor. Here's a design of the Coconut Grove.
This is the layout of the basement. The Melody Lounge is the one on the bottom left-hand corner. This is the layout of the building's first floor. The fire was first noticed around 10:15 p.m. in the basement. The palm tree burst into flames and the bartenders tried to extinguish the fire with water and seltzer bottles, but failed to extinguish it. 2 minutes later, the fire raced through a passageway into the Broadway lounge. Upon reaching the main dining rooms, the flame, moving rapidly, swept high about the room near the ceiling, shortly followed by a cloud of dense smoke. 5 minutes after it was first seen in the basement room, it had entirely traversed the street floor of the main building and had passed to the entrance to the Broadway lounge. Flames poured out of the exits on Piedmont Street, Shawmut Street, and Broadway. Firefighters had the fire out in little over an hour.
We were both waiters, my brother and I. My brother got in there first, then he got me in. You know, there was pretty chorus girls there, and we were talking to we're 21, 22 years old. I'm talking to the head waiter, and you know, we got to go to Chinatown and eat after, and it's all just another day. The fire started about 10 p.m. I think. Now, see, there's a petition here, and we were here, and I said, Frank, I think there's a fight. So we heard the rumbling of the people coming up from the lounge. And as they were coming up, there was flames over their head. Now, when they got to the revolving door got stuck. When they got stuck, those other people couldn't get out. So when we saw the fire, Frank went toward that door. And he tried to unlock that door, but there were so many people around it. So I happened to be on the right part of that door, and when the push came, I went down the stairs because there was nothing to grab onto. I went down head over heel, but at the landing, halfway down, there were people down there, that fell. So anyway, when I got downstairs, I remember that window. There was a big pipe, galvanized pipe through it, a vent pipe like. I tore it down. That's how we were picking up people and putting them out head first. So we got out a few people, and then I had a 15-year-old busboy next to me. When the lights went out, he went out, pushed him out, then I went out. I always watch the exits. I still do. I tell my children all the time. They're 65 and 55. I tell them all the time, watch the exits.
All available ladder companies were ordered to assist in the removal of victims from the building. Any additional men were ordered to assist in this work and were used to remove bodies on stretchers. From the pictures you can see that the tables and chairs were not fixed, which became obstructions for those trying to exit the building. Those obstructions accounted for a large percentage of the overall death toll. There were many things that resulted in the loss of life. These reasons include the following: unmarked exits. For those that did find the exits, they quickly realized that the exits were locked or blocked. Some of the exits that were blocked were due to the obstruction of bodies of people that were overcome by the smoke and gases within just 2 to 5 minutes. 200 people perished within feet of the jammed revolving doors.
About 1,000 people were in the building that night, which was nearly doubled what is allowed. No sprinkler system required because it was licensed as a restaurant, not a theater or dance hall. 8 days before the fire, the Boston Fire Department's Fire Prevention Bureau inspected the building and found the business to have sufficient exits and fire extinguishers. In addition, new codes were not retroactive, meaning they only applied to new construction. NFPA approved new building exits code in February 1942, but the code had not adopted by the city of Boston. Official cause of the fire was ruled as undetermined. Theories: busboy, faulty wiring, fumes from alcohol, ceiling tile adhesive, flame-proofing chemicals, nitrocellulose, inflammable insecticides, and refrigerant gas. There was no fire detection or suppression system in place. There were 11 functioning fire extinguishers throughout the club, but only 4 were used. Coconut Grove did not result in significant changes to NFPA codes because most of the things they found that resulted in the loss of life were already covered in the new building exit code and were approved in February 1942. Boston and other municipalities throughout the country underwent sweeping changes, including reclassification of nightclubs and restaurants as places of public assembly. The grand jury issued 10 indictments to people deemed to be responsible for the fire. The club owner was the only one found guilty and sentenced to 12 to 15 years, but was later released early. Certificate of safety for each structure, specifying the maximum number of persons to be admitted, prohibition of the use of revolving doors, installation of automatic sprinklers in any room occupied at a restaurant, nightclub, or place of entertainment, prohibition of the use of basement room as places of assembly, unless provision is made for at least 2 direct means of access to the street, with installation of metal-covered automatic closing fire doors being required in any passage exiting between basement room and first floor. Requirement of defined aisle space between tables in restaurants, such as tables to be firmly affixed to the floor to prevent upsetting and obstruction of means of egress, exit doors in place of assembly to have so-called panic locks and no others, absolute prohibition of any fabric or material containing pyroxylin in places of assembly, absolute prohibition in any place of assembly of the use of suspended cloth false ceiling, window openings of sufficient area equipped with louvers secured by fusible link so as to open automatically when subjected to heat, for the purpose of drawing off flames or gases, should be required in basement rooms used as places of public assembly. Building codes were amended in the city and elsewhere. Revolving doors were outlawed, later reinstated when a revolving door is placed between 2 outward opening exit doors. Exit doors were to be clearly marked, be unlocked from within, and free from blockage by screen drapes. Furniture, business supplies, use of non-combustible decorations, and building materials was ordered. As the placement of emergency lighting and sprinklers, new laws were passed in 1943 which defined for the first time a place of assembly and created new life safety requirements for this occupancy type. A committee was also created to further study regarding life safety in places of public assembly.